Imagine this. Your phone rings in the middle of the night. The voice on the other side isn't your daughter, not her laughter, not her familiar, "Hi, Dad." Instead, it's a stranger. Cold, cool, a voice that drips with power and darkness. "We have your daughter." Those 4 words slammed into me like a truck. My chest tightened, my legs almost gave out. I wanted to believe it was a prank, some sick joke, but deep down, I knew. The silence in my daughter's dorm room earlier that night, the unanswered calls, the frantic messages from her roommate, they all made sense now. She was gone. And then came the words that would haunt me. "If you ever want to see her again, you'll do exactly what we say." The world went blurry. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. A father's worst nightmare was now my reality. My little girl, my pride, my reason for waking up each morning. Taken, not by chance, not by accident, but by predators who made a living selling lives. I couldn't breathe, yet I had no choice but to stand tall. Fear battled with rage inside me. They thought they had power over me, that I would crumble, that I would obey. They didn't know who they were messing with, because this story isn't just about my daughter being taken. It's about what happens when a father decides to fight back, when a man who has lost everything has nothing left to fear. Stay with me, because this story will shake you to your core. The night started like any other. My daughter, Emily, had just settled into her 2nd year of college. She was 19, bright, curious, full of life. She called me earlier that evening, her voice bubbling with excitement about a new project she was working on with her classmates. "Dad," she laughed, "you always tell me I take on too much, but I promise I'm fine. I'll prove to you I can handle this semester." I remember her face on the video call, her dark hair falling into her eyes as she pushed it back with the same little flick she'd had since childhood. She looked tired, yes, but proud to be standing on her own 2 feet. I told her what I always told her. Study hard, stay safe, and remember, call me if you ever need anything. Her reply, as always, was, "I know, Dad. I love you." If I had known those would be the last normal words I'd hear from her, I would have never hung up. Hours later, the phone rang again, but it wasn't her. It was a roommate, voice trembling, words stumbling over each other. "Mr. Walker, Emily's not here. She never came back to the dorm after class. I thought she was with you." At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she was out late with friends. Maybe she'd fallen asleep in the library. But then the second call came. This time it was them. A voice, low, raspy, calm in a way that froze my blood. "Mr. Walker, we have your daughter." I couldn't speak. My throat closed, my mind screamed. The room spun as those words settled into my bones. Every father imagines this moment, fears it, but nothing prepares you for reality. "She is safe for now," the man continued, his tone like a snake wrapping tighter around my chest. "But if you ever want to see her again, you will do exactly what we say." I tried to shout, to demand proof, to beg for her voice. He chuckled. "Don't worry. You'll hear from us soon." Then the line went dead. I stood in my living room, phone clutched in my shaking hand, staring into the darkness. My world had collapsed in seconds. Emily, my Emily, was out there, terrified, alone, surrounded by monsters. I called the police. Their response was clinical, rehearsed. "Sir, we'll open a file. These cases are delicate. It's best you wait and let us handle it." Wait? How could I wait? Every second felt like a lifetime. I slammed the phone down. Rage and fear warred inside me, but one truth cut through everything. If I sat still, I would lose her. So I made my choice. I grabbed my jacket, my car keys, and the small notebook where Emily had written down all her class schedules and favorite study spots. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I'd find. But I knew one thing. I was going after her. Because no one, takes my daughter and gets away with it. The drive to Emily's college felt endless, though the roads were nearly empty. Every red light, every passing second, made me grip my teeth harder. My hands clenched the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, my mind replaying that phone call again and again. When I finally reached the campus, the dormitory looked deceptively peaceful. Brightly lit hallways, clusters of students laughing, music playing faintly from open doors. For a moment, I wanted to scream at them. Don't you know someone was just taken from here? Don't you feel the same hole in the air that I do? Emily's roommate, Sarah, opened the door with swollen red eyes. She looked like she hadn't stopped crying since she called me. I'm so sorry, Mr. Walker, she whispered. She just vanished. One moment she was in class, and the next, I cut her off. Show me where she was last seen. Together, we walked the path Emily usually took from her classes to the dorm. My heart pounded at every corner, every shadow. I kept expecting to see her step out, smiling, saying it was all a misunderstanding. But the emptiness mocked me. At the campus security office, I demanded to see the footage. The guard resisted at first, throwing up protocols and authorizations. I slammed my fist on the desk. My voice shook, but my words were steel. That's my daughter. She's missing. You can either show me the footage now, or explain to police why you wasted time. His hesitation broke. He clicked a few keys, and there she was, Emily, walking briskly across the quad just after sundown. She was texting, head tilted slightly down, her backpack bouncing on her shoulders. Then a dark SUV pulled up beside her. The door swung open. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, his face hidden beneath a cap. Emily paused, confused. She said something, but within seconds he grabbed her. The camera caught only a blur as she was shoved inside. The SUV drove off. Sarah gasped beside me. I couldn't breathe. My fists trembled as the image burned into my mind. My daughter, stolen in plain sight, and no one, not a single passerby, intervened. I stormed the police station with the footage, but the officer behind the desk only shook his head. Sir, we understand, but these cases are complicated. Human trafficking rings cross state lines. There are procedures, agencies. I slammed the USB drive onto his desk. That's my child. She's not a case file. She's Emily. And if you sit here shuffling papers while she's out there, I'll never forgive myself. The officer's face softened slightly, but his words didn't change. All we can tell you is to wait for the investigators. Wait. Always wait. I walked out before my rage got me arrested. Back in my car, I opened Emily's notebook. I traced her handwriting. Page after page of class schedules, professors' names, and study groups. One note caught my eye, a coffee shop she loved off campus, where she often worked late. Maybe someone there had seen something. Maybe the traffickers had been watching her for longer than I thought. Just as I was about to drive there, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My blood froze. I answered. That same cold, raspy voice slid into my ear. Mr. Walker. You're moving too quickly. I told you. We control what happens now. Keep testing us, and she suffers. I clench my jaw. I want proof. I want to hear her voice. The man chuckled darkly. Proof? Very well. Our next call will give you exactly that. Follow our instructions, or the next sound you hear won't be her voice, but her scream. The line cut off, and I sat in my car, shaking, realizing my hunt had only just begun. The next 24 hours felt like a slow march through hell. I didn't sleep, didn't eat. Every sound from my phone jolted me awake. Every shadow outside my window felt like eyes watching me. The traffickers had promised proof. That word twisted in my mind like a blade. By morning, I couldn't wait any longer. I drove to the coffee shop Emily always mentioned in her notebook. The barista, a young man with messy hair and tired eyes, recognized her instantly. Yeah, she came a lot. Sweet girl, always tipped. He lowered his voice. But a few nights ago, she seemed off. Said some guy kept watching her. My pulse spiked. What guy? He shook his head. Tall, shaved head, real expensive suit. Didn't fit in here. She said he gave her chills. A lead. Small, but real. I spent the next hours moving through places Emily might have been watched. The library, the corner store, even the bus stop she sometimes used. Each time, I asked questions, pushed harder, until someone pointed me to a part of town students rarely went after dark, an industrial strip littered with warehouses, broken streetlights, and shadows that stretched too long. That night, I went there. The air reeked of rust and gasoline. My footsteps echoed against empty buildings as I forced myself forward. Somewhere in this maze of silence, men like the one in the SUV operated, unseen. Finally, I found someone willing to talk. A man sitting on an overturned crate, cigarette dangling from his lips. His clothes were ragged, his hands scarred. He looked like he'd been swallowed and spit back out by this city. "You're looking for your girl," he rasped before I even spoke. My chest tightened. "You've seen her." He shook his head slowly. "Not her, but I know the kind of men who took her. They've been pulling kids from colleges for months. Move them through trucks at night. Sometimes they don't come back." The words nearly crushed me, but I forced steel into my voice. "Then tell me where they are." The man's eyes flicked around nervously. "There's a warehouse by the docks. Number 17. I've seen black SUVs come and go. Men in suits. It's not random, friend. It's business. And once you're in their system, you're gone." My fists clenched. My heart felt like it was tearing itself apart. But I wouldn't stop. "Then that's where I'm going." He grabbed my arm. "Careful. Their leader, he's not just a thug. He's smart, calculated. The kind of man who knows how to stay 2 steps ahead." His words haunted me as I drove to the docks that night. The warehouse loomed like a giant shadow against the water, its windows blacked out, only faint slivers of light bleeding through the cracks. I crept closer, hiding behind shipping containers. Through a gap, I saw men unloading crates. One barked orders with cold authority. His presence radiated control. This had to be the leader. But then, as he turned, the light hit his face, and my blood froze. I knew him, not just in passing, not as a stranger. This man, this trafficker who stole my daughter, was someone from my past. Someone who once sat across from me in boardrooms. Someone I had shaken hands with. The truth slammed into me like a freight train. The leader wasn't just a faceless criminal. He was a man who knew me personally. And now he had my daughter. The sight of him stopped me cold. My breath caught. My mind rewound, scrambling through the years until his face finally clicked into place. Adrian Kane. The name alone carried weight. A man who once moved in the same corporate circles I had. Sharp suits, sharper words, and an ego the size of the skyscrapers we used to meet in. We weren't just rivals. We were enemies forged by ambition. Years ago, Adrian had pitched a bold venture to investors, a logistics empire he claimed would revolutionize supply chains. But his numbers didn't add up. His timelines were fantasy. When the board turned to me, I exposed his lies with cold precision, line by line, in front of a room full of powerful men. The humiliation was absolute. Adrian's career imploded overnight. I never saw him again. Until now. And here he was, not ruined, not forgotten, but reborn in something darker. His empire had returned. Only this time his foundation wasn't goods or trade. It was people, my daughter among them. Rage surged to me like fire. My hands shook as I gripped the container wall for balance. I wanted to storm in, to tear him apart with my bare hands. But the smart part of me, the part Emily always admired, forced me to wait. Adrian barked orders with the same arrogance I remembered. Men obeyed without question. He carried himself like a king in exile who had finally reclaimed his throne. And as he stepped in the glow of a hanging lamp, I saw something chilling in his eyes. Satisfaction. This wasn't random. He knew Emily was mine. This was his revenge. I staggered back, heart pounding. My mind screamed, how do I beat a man who has already thought 3 steps ahead? The next 2 days became a blur of obsession. I tracked every vehicle leaving Warehouse 17, mapped their routes, watched the men Adrian trusted most. My face was hidden under a hood, my car parked in shadows. Every night, I scribbled notes until the paper blurred under my tears. Finally, a pattern emerged. Every 3rd night, a convoy of vans left the docks and headed inland, toward an abandoned motel off the highway. The building looked lifeless, boarded up windows and weeds choking the driveway, but the comings and goings told another story. This wasn't just a stop. It was a hub. If Emily was alive, she was in there. That night, I armed myself with nothing more than a flashlight, a crowbar, and desperation. The closer I got, the more the air itself seemed to vibrate with dread. My knuckles were white around the crowbar as I forced open a back door. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and fear. I crept through dim corridors, each floorboard groaning beneath my weight. Down one hallway, I heard muffled cries. My heart leapt. It sounded like a girl. I pushed forward, every nerve on fire. Then bang! The overhead lights exploded on, flooding the hallway with blinding brightness. And there he was, Adrian Kane, standing at the end of the corridor, flanked by two of his men. His smug grin twisted my stomach into knots. "Welcome back, old friend," he said, his voice dripping venom. "I was wondering how long it would take you to find me." The crowbar slipped slightly in my sweaty hands. My worst fear had come true. I wasn't the hunter anymore. I had just walked straight into his trap. The corridor stretched before me, blazing with fluorescent light. Adrian Kane's smirk glistened like oil in the brightness, flanked by two enforcers whose shadows stretched long and menacing across the cracked motel floor. My chest tightened, not with fear, but with clarity. This was it, the end game. "You should have left the pass alone," Adrian sneered, his words echoing against the stained walls. "But you couldn't resist. Just like before, you had to expose me. And now, it'll cost you everything." I glanced around, taking in every detail. The narrow hallway, the creaky floorboards, the way Adrian stood too far forward, a mistake only an arrogant man would make. My grip tightened on the crowbar. I wasn't here to debate. I was here to bring my daughter home. "Where's Emily?" My voice cracked like thunder, every syllable fueled by rage and desperation. Adrian's grin widened. He motioned casually, and one of his men dragged forward a trembling figure from a side room. My heart stopped. Emily. Her wrists were bound, her face pale, but her eyes, those bright, defiant eyes, locked on mine. They gave me strength I didn't know I still had. "Alive! For now," Adrian taunted, "but only because I wanted you to watch me break you first." The world slowed. My pulse hammered like war drums in my ears. This was no longer about rivalry or revenge. This was about a father reclaiming what no man had the right to steal. With a sudden roar, I hurled the crowbar at the light fixture above Adrian's head. Glass rained down, plunging the corridor into chaotic flickers of shadow. His men lunged, but in the confusion I dove forward, tackling the first guard into the wall with bone-cracking force. Emily screamed my name. That cry became fuel. The second guard swung wildly, but I ducked, grabbing his arm and twisting until he dropped his weapon. A pipe clattered the floor. I seized it and struck hard, the echo ringing through the hallway. Adrian stumbled back, furious. "You can't win. You never could." But his words betrayed him. He was shaken. For the first time, I saw fear creep into his perfect mask. I moved fast, cutting the rope around Emily's wrists with a shard of broken glass. She clung to me, her sobs muffled against my chest. "Dad, don't leave me." "I won't," I whispered, holding her tighter than I ever had. "Not ever again." Adrian drew a gun from under his jacket, his face twisted with desperation. "If I can't destroy you, I'll take you both down with me." But arrogance makes men sloppy. His hand trembled, his aim faltered. In that split second, I shoved Emily to the side and swung the iron pipe with every ounce of strength left in me. The gun skittered across the floor. Adrian staggered, crashing into the wall. Sirens wailed outside. The police at last, drawn by the noise, the chaos, the trail I had left them without realizing. Red and blue lights splashed through the broken windows as officers stormed in, shouting commands. Adrian Kane was dragged away in cuffs, cursing my name. His empire collapsed in a single night, exposed under the same blinding light he had tried to trap me with. And Emily, my Emily, was safe. Her hands shook as she reached for me, but her voice was steady when she said, "You never gave up on me." I pulled her close, tears burning down my face. A father doesn't quit, not when everything is at stake. We walked out into the cool night air, scarred but standing, broken but unbroken. And though the battle had cost me pieces of myself, it gave me back the only piece that mattered, my daughter,